um, why the corporate media is not covering the acceleration of abrupt, abrupt global warming um, this summer. The Great Coral Reef, Great Barrier Reef, had a 80% bleaching event that probably will not heal. So that's an 80% extirpation of the most biodiverse ecosystem in the ocean. There's extreme heat in the Philippines, in Thailand, Cambodia, in India, in Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mali. There's crop failures in West Africa. The cacao crop is only 1/3 harvest in Ghana. The corn crop in Argentina got attacked by leafhoppers due to the increase in heat, so they will lose significant amount of the crop. The flooding in southern Brazil, the flooding in Kenya, the forest fires in Canada, the tornadoes and flooding in Texas and the southeast US, the water crisis in the Ogallala Reservoir, which is Kansas and Texas and Colorado, Nebraska. The drought in Spain, Catalonia. Basically, the Arctic ice volume keeps going down, and the methane out of the world's largest ocean shelf keeps increasing into the atmosphere despite being dismissed as non-existent by the IPCC, talking about the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. And what does that leave us with? They're actually predicting a larger corn crop this year in the Midwest, but considering they just printed an article predicting less smoke in the Midwest from Canada due to less wildfires, and then they were immediately disproven about the smoke and had to issue smoke warnings in the Midwest from the Canadian wildfires. So the weather forecasters are underestimating global warming as climate causing the dominant effect in the weather. And so the computer models are underestimating the extreme weather. So last summer we had mid-80s in the northern Midwest by mid-May, and today we had mid-80s once again in the northern Midwest in mid-May. So that's much hotter than normal. In India, the sardines are moving north because the water is too hot along southern India, along Kerala, and so they've moved up to Gujarat, which is farther north on the Atlantic side, or the Indian Ocean, I guess it is. So they're already very concerned about heat stroke and crop failures, and India said they will not be exporting wheat this year because of drought, and they're the second largest wheat exporter in the world. So I think that the models are starting to really fail in terms of how extreme the feedbacks have become for the ocean heat accelerating the land heat. And we're going to see more crop failures becoming dominant. And I have promoted the algae, deep ocean algae with volcanic fertilization, which is Sir David King's program out of Cambridge. And I noticed a PNAS article, a recent Proceedings National Academy of Science article on carbon reduction and as a factor in these net zero goal, and the article did not mention algae at all. So there's this fixation on some kind of high-tech carbon reduction or carbon sequestration, when in fact algae is the most effective means of capturing carbon, because oil is from algae. So why does algae get ignored? Because it's too simple, it's too natural, and we are so alienated from ecology that we refuse to accept the power of nature and embrace it. If we can leverage the power of nature, then we can reverse the damage that abrupt global warming has caused and will cause. Otherwise, the algae will probably be the only species that survives the biological annihilation that's accelerating, and people are there. I saw another talk about this guy at Stanford on the whether global warming is an existential risk for Earth, and he basically was like, well, not really. And of course, he completely ignored the world's largest ocean shelf that has 1,200 gigatons of pressurized methane, the East Siberian Arctic Shelf, and how the methane's already increasing into the atmosphere, as documented by Natalia Shakova's research group. And the aerosol masking effect is finally getting mainstream attention due to James E. Hansen's emphasis. But even that effect is being minimized. It's not really the research group of Daniel Rosenfeld proved that the aerosol masking effect is twice as bad as previously thought, and that research is still being ignored. He was cited in the IPCC, but he was kind of dismissed as just like one claim among many, which is not accurate. He changed the way the aerosol masking effect is measured. So that's why he discovered it's twice as bad as previously thought. And so people are still talking about 2100 or, the end of the century kind of thing, when in fact it's more likely going to be like the next 5 years where things will really start wiping out everything, like when you have the nuclear power plants melting down and stuff. So it's going to get interesting because the wars are increasing due to the increase in drought, so they all feed back on each other. And it's a tragic situation when everybody thinks, well, we can just escape to outer space. But we kind of need our ecological habitat to to live. Fresh water, oxygen, soil for nutrients. So anyway, it's gonna get quite interesting because obviously the corporate media refuses to really do any kind of like in-depth general analysis, because you end up getting the information that Guy McPherson has covered, but even Guy McPherson ignores the algae, whereas Paul Beckwith, he did promote algae before, but he sort of stopped promoting it. And you have to combine all the different types of algae, like the deep ocean algae and then the near ocean algae farms, and then algae for carbon capture from emissions, and algae is food source and fertilizer and pretty much all around algae. But again, it's too simple, it's too natural, so it has to be ignored because everybody's addicted to technology because they grew up in cities, and so they've never really lived off the land where you drink the water straight off the land without filtering it or you don't, with no well or anything, like just the surface water, just drink it straight. I actually did that for 4 months in Alaska. So I'm one of the rare few people who've done that on the whole planet, because most people, and survived. I mean, obviously it's dangerous. I'm sure a lot of people still do it, but they get diseases and stuff. But anyway, it's too bad. I mean, we're all so addicted to the high technology without realizing it's wiping out like billions of years of life on the planet. Because algae is 4.6 billion years old. So hopefully algae will survive. And everybody, like, they talk about the ocean levels rising, but they don't talk about the famine that's going to happen long before the oceans rise. I mean, the oceans are rising, but the famine's already starting from the drought. So you've got famine right now in Tigray, Ethiopia, in the Congo, in Sudan. The famine's starting in all over Africa. So, and of course, the famines from war in Gaza and elsewhere, Afghanistan previously, and Iraq. And so anyway, some ecologists say, well, we just need to reduce population. Well, actually, it's really about energy use. And so it's about ecological energy use. So then some people say, well, we got to stop eating animals. Well, the problem is that if you want to just eat vegetables, you still need fertilizer. You need manure. And humans, you can have human manure compost, and I visited the Berbers that lived off human manure compost for thousands of years to grow their food. But of course, that's what animals provide. Animals fertilize the land, whether it's humans or, ungulates. And so if you do regenerative agriculture, that actually stores carbon in the land by increasing the soil fertility by doing intensive rotational grazing. And I worked on a regenerative farm for 5 years. I volunteered several times a year, so I've got experience in that. And so that's all I gotta say for now. Happy Mother's Day.